What's up guys, welcome back to the video. So today we're going to be learning about the useReducer hook in ReactJS. So let's get started. So the useReducer hook is a hook that allows us to manage complex state logic in your functional components. And yeah, and by the way, it's kind of like the state, as I said. So here it's mentioned though, manage complex state logic, basically use state kind of thing. So there's pretty much just a bit of a difference in this. Like the useReducer can handle much more complex things than the use state and stuff, even though it's much more complexer, but it can handle more stuff easily. So by the way, this is also useful when you have state logic that involves multiple subvalues, or whenever the next state depends on the previous state or so. So yeah, and this kind of like the syntax, the main syntax we need. And yeah, this is an array destruction kind of thing. These are useReducer, and by the way, we have to import this useReducer from the React library, and this is gonna be our three things we need inside here. So it's gonna be our reducer, initial state, and init. So we're gonna be learning about all these three, and these both are should be there, and the init is an optional one. So yeah, and let's go ahead and start off by the reducer since it's first. So reducer is a function that determines the next state based on the current state and in action. So basically this reducer function normally takes two arguments, the state and the action. Remember, it takes state and the action, which we're going to be seeing an example soon. So initial state, the name itself kind of gives us off. It just is the initial state of the reducer, and in it, as usual, it's an optional function that can lazily initialize the state. It is useful when if the initial state is computationally expensive to calculate. Basically it's kind of like more to calculate or so if the memory is full or something like that. So yeah, so now let's go ahead and see an example using this useReducer hook. So let's get started. So I'm gonna keep this because I wanna share some points about that soon. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep that right there. So these are the two files we need, the app.js of course, and I also created a new file named counter.jsx because we use the counter example for the use state, so we're gonna be trying that with the useReducer too. So as I said, because it's similar to use state, so let's see if we can. So let's go ahead and do it. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be importing the useReducer from the, let's go ahead and first write this, from the React library. And now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be having a functional component. And this is going to be named as counter though. And there we go. So now inside this we're going to be returning, and we're going to be returning our count first of all, so that we can see our count. And I'm not going to write the count code right now. And next we're going to be having two buttons. It's going to be increase, and the next one is going to be decrease. Let's go ahead and spell this decrease. There we go. So we have all this, and let me go ahead and put it all in a fragment. There we go. So now that should be good. So let me align this all so that it looks good. So these are the three things we have: our count so that we can display our count, and the button so that we can increase and decrease at the same time. So yeah, and now what we're going to be doing is let's go ahead and work with the useReducer hook real quick. So first of all, for this we need something like this. So by the way, I said the syntax, so as I said, this is the main important syntax. So we're going to be using this now. So we're going to do right here, we're going to do cons. And let's go ahead and have, first of all, we need a count so that we can display our count, and we're going to be having dispatch right there. And the next thing inside here, we want to be using this useReducer we imported, and this is going to be having a reducer as usual, and it's going to be having our initial state. And if you want, you can have init, but since it's optional, I'm not going to use it. So yeah, and now we have the main syntax done. If you are worried about it, you can just recheck if you want. So yeah, and now what we can be doing is we can be working about the reducer and the initial state so that it works. So first of all, let's go ahead and export this so that we can see our output in our app. And let's go ahead and export default counter, and we're going to be importing right here, import counter. There we go. And in here we're going to be having our counter. There we go. So we have our counter. Let's go ahead and see right here. Let me reload this. So reducer and initial state is not defined, so we're gonna get an error, but if you remove that, it's gonna work normally. So that's why we want to make these both work. So let's go ahead and start off working with that. So first of all, we're gonna be starting off with the easiest thing, which is basically the initial state. So to do that, you need an initial state, basically this thing right here, equals 0. Basically we're going to be starting off with 0. So if I take a look right here, now our initial state is gone because it's defined. And now our reducer, which is one of the hardest one many people say, but it's gonna be easy if you guys practice more about this. So let's go ahead and do reducer, and this is gonna be a function, as I said. So let's go ahead and do this, and there we go. So inside this parentheses, we need some arguments. So yeah, those arguments are the arguments which I mentioned right here, the state and the action. So let's go ahead and get our state and the action. There we go. So if you've been concentrating, that's the one which I said, state and the action. So this is gonna normally take two, basically the state and the action. So now we want to check if it's like increase or decrease, because the computer doesn't know, right? So we gotta check it. So first of all, we're gonna be using a switch case for that, and this is gonna be having action right here. So now in here we're gonna be having the case. So the first case is basically gonna be our increase. So this is gonna be just like that, and let's go ahead and return this. Return state +1 since it's increase, and let me spell this right. There we go. So now next case is basically gonna be our decrease, since we also have a decrease case. Decrease, there we go. And this is gonna be having a return, and this is gonna be returning state -1 since it's a decrease. So if you want, you can do -5 or so, it doesn't really matter, but I'm just gonna do -1. And let's go ahead and now have a default case if you want. So we're gonna be having a default case, and this is gonna be our, let's go ahead and return first of all, and this is gonna be our state. Basically it's just default. So yeah, now let's go ahead and work with our on click so that it works. By the way, let me go ahead and go right here, reload this so it doesn't really happen anything. And let me go ahead and also display our account first of all, since we already created it right here. So this is the account we want to display, and now it's currently 0 and it doesn't happen anything because these buttons doesn't affect. And let's go ahead and let's go ahead and work with these on clicks. So now what we want to be doing is we're going to be having an on click, and this is going to be having a dispatch. So first of all, we're going to be doing that, and we're going to be having our dispatch, basically this. So in here we're just going to be having increase since this is an increase, and I want to have this kind of case, so I'm just going to copy this and then paste it right here, and there we go. So we can copy this if you want, but I'm just going to copy this right here since I already had it, and let's go ahead and put it right here. There we go. So now this is going to be dispatch as usual, and this is going to be decrease. So let's see if we spelled it right. Oh yeah, yeah, we spelled it right. So now it should work. So let's go ahead and go right here, reload this, increase, so that works. So that's our counter. So by the way, if you guys are wondering how it's doing, it's basically we're passing increase, and then it's just going to be checking where is increase, and state +1 is going to be increasing the count. There we go. And that's gonna work, and that's why it's increasing. And let's see if the decrease works. So decrease, and that works, so that works too, and it goes to -2. So there we go, that works. And that's pretty much about useReducer. I know this is pretty basic, but you can do many things with this useReducer, and there's a lot of important hook in this ReactJS. So that's it for today's video. See you in the next video. Until then, bye bye.